Okay, so I'll start with the obvious thing right now. It would appear to everyone that we have not made any progress on the build in Special One. Anybody else can see that Italy Land 2 is relatively done for its preliminary build, the build that we're going to put in place so that we can open on the 4th of July. So Italy 2, other than a few little modifications that we might need to make here or there, is done. Special One was waiting on assets that are pretty much done now, so I will be making a lot of progress on Special One throughout the next 4 or 5 days, and it should be done. Have its mesh assets out, textured, and it's already ready for combat. The builds in Special One and Italy Land 2 are not final builds. We are putting these down so that we can open on the 4th of July. There are enough prims free in the skybox for us to modify these builds in the skybox and replace things and move things around as needed. So the builds are progressing. It's just a matter of we have to do what we have when we have it, and we're still waiting on a few things like the road system, which we've already gridded out in the skybox, so we know how that's going to work. Dusty and Minus are hard at work in making sure that the road system works and is acceptable for most people's tanks because Chaos and Dusty's group have very, very large tanks, so they're hard to maneuver into small areas, which is fine, but we want the roadways to be able to accommodate people's larger vehicles. Um, the hub is going to we're going to begin working on the neutral hub very soon. I would have liked to have waited until we had Kane Constantine's sim in place, but I'm not sure when that's happening yet. Chaos and Dusty have offered to move a sim for him when he is done with his new Jesse build. So we'll keep that in mind. The fourth neutral sim should be in place by August. Uh, Probably way before that. It might even be before July. It's just a matter of when Kane says he's ready to move. People are ready to pay for the move. I don't know how well Kane's build's going to blend with the rest of the Outlands, but we can address that when the sim is actually in place. As for development progress, we have the admin HUD functioning correctly and throughout all four and soon to be five regions. And since it works in the four regions, it'll work in 5 and 6 when those are in place. So that's done. It logs everything to a computer that only the development staff and head admins and council will have access to. But when it's completely finished and the builds are done, the past 10 admin actions will be displayed in the spawn hub at all times as to who did the action and who the action was used against. So we'll bear that in mind, and I'll explain the admin HUD some more in a little bit. The objective system is not ready yet. The registration server is ready. The intersim teleportation system is also pretty much ready. So I'll explain what that means. So when you take an objective, you're taking that objective for your group, and your group will be able to either use the region-wide teleporters in that specific region to teleport to that objective, or if they have their home set in another region but need to reinforce you on that objective, we do have teleporters that work sim chain wide now. They work pretty flawlessly. I broke one the other day, but Italy Land 2 has been was suffering from some problems. I think that they were alleviated when the data center move happened over the early morning, but we'll do some more testing in that. It appeared that Italy Land 2, one of the other homesteads on the server it was operating on, was consuming more resources than the Italy Land 2 was, so slowing it down. It actually really messed up a coercion raid that was a lot of fun when it was just in Italy Land when they were in our sim, but when we pushed out into Italy Land 2, the region just really kind of compounded itself. When we pushed it into Special One handled it fine, so we're pretty much 100% confirmed that that was an issue on LLs, and after Coercion and Chaos sat there and blamed each other for the lag for about 5 minutes, and then Floyd and I looked into it and we were like, we think that it's an LL issue, so we're going to be addressing those problems. Every region in the sim chain should be on the same data center today, but if they're not, they will be by Monday. So that's a development thing. Dread has been away for a little bit. The heat wave in California was affecting Comcast's networks, and I would assume that some of their hubs were overheating and things like that, and they couldn't handle the bandwidth on their backups. So he was back last night, and it did look like things were working, and he worked on some things and worked on updating some of our tanks as well. Um, so in that regard, in development progress, we do have a few more scripters on board to help with the public armory, and I will be talking to Kane Constantine about getting some of New Jesse's public armory placed out as well. There will be freebies available for the public armory by the end of the night. I have them. I just need to reperm them and do some permissions testings with the actual content owners so that I don't accidentally leak their content. So we will have free guns available. We'll also be putting out a free raycasted grenade thrower and mind layer, or mine, not mind, mine layer later in the week too. Probably later in the afternoon today. It's only, well, I got to go to the gym after this, so it'll be this evening. I'll toss together a HUD using some of my assets. Other development stuff. If anybody's interested in joining the development staff, they just need to contact us and understand that while we will not be paying them for helping us develop with this, they will be allowed to sell whatever they make or develop for this if they would like to. We do need more militaries to contribute freebies to the free armory and armory cache system. So that's another system that we've been developing, which is somebody's typing, aren't they? Uh, who's head admin? We don't know yet. We're gonna do a vote on that. Sorry. Yeah. So yeah, we don't know who's head admin. I am not actually an admin. I'm a council member. I don't want to be doing administrative tasks if I don't need to be, but I'll touch on that in a minute here, because we're still on the development side of things. So there's going to be weapon caches that float around the regions. So what that means is people will be able to run up to these weapon caches and hold them and like click and hold them or just hold them like they would the regular objective systems, and it'll give them a random gun out of our LAN servers that'll be out. And what that'll enable people to do is they'll be rewarded for doing combat and not idling. So they'll get a free gun out of it. Sometimes it'll be a rare gun depending on the kind of weapon cache that it is. And that system's pretty much done. We already have everything done for that. We just need the LAN server and things like that for the communication. So there'll probably be 2 weapon caches out at any given time across the neutral regions. They won't spawn in military regions because that'd be silly. The militaries would just camp them. Once the weapon cache is captured, it will move regions to a different location. This is how our Chaos Cult gear works for our recruits, so it's pretty simple. It'll teleport around at random. It'll probably stay in the same place for like 15 or 20 minutes until it's captured or it hasn't been captured, and then it'll move. As the continent grows, we'll put out more of these, and the rarity rate will either be increased or decreased based on how often people get crap. So the outposts are also ready. Sigilite Guard, I think they're renaming themselves, but they have already rented an outpost, and I think CPC is also interested in renting an outpost. The outpost will not tie into the objective system, but that can change if people want the outpost to tie into the objective systems later on. So, with that being said, I'll go on about the admin process. I have an admin application form. Dusty, can you release the admin application out in the Outland Raiders group right now, actually?
Which group?
Outland Raiders.
Alright.
And then I'll explain how the administration process works. Everybody here is probably pretty familiar with it already, for the few of us that are actually here. So the job of administrators is not to go around hall monitoring people. They're not to take action unless somebody's specifically been complained about. And then they have to get the person who's being complained about's side of the story unless it's blatantly obvious what they are doing is a violation of one of the few rules that we have. So if somebody's flying around on an NPV like full auto firing nukes, then you'll unsit them, and if they continue to do it, you'll put them on an auto unsitter, and then you'll auto kill them basically. So the admin HUD has 3 main functions. It has unsit, and the unsit option is operated between an unsit once or an unsit automatically function. It can unsit multiple agents at once because it's operated through LAN servers. Um, So that's very good. The other thing that it has is eject, and eject won't be used very often, but it's a good way to get somebody's attention when they're not responding to your IMs. So bear that in mind. Like, if you're an admin and you need to get someone's attention, eject them before you start auto killing them, which is the third function of it. There is a parcel ban function for them as well, but that should never be used. Unless nothing else has worked to get this person's attention, and you need to isolate them in the spawn hub for a moment to get their attention. The other thing that will be distributed with the admins will be an NPV. We're probably going to make like a Judge Dredd themed Segway, which is going to be pretty cool. So you'll look like a security guard. So everyone has a chance to be an admin, but that is how the administration process works. Admins are there to mediate problems, not to just outright look for people causing problems when nobody's complaining about them.
Also, as far as the admin thing go, we'll probably have a mall cup uniform for admins to wear.
Yeah. So there'll be some cool stuff that the admins get, that will be optional for them. But the admin HUD is the only way that admins will be capable of taking administrative action. And every action that they do is logged and will be displayed in the spawn hub. So that's really, really good because it adds a level of transparency. The only people that have the rights to do anything other than the admins are the sim owners, but they should not be doing that unless it's a really severe thing, and it needs to be logged regardless, and sim owners will be given access to the admin HUD as well. The admin HUD may get an estate ban feature later on. It's just a matter of if it's necessary. There's usually an estate manager on at all times, because the lead development staff is always on, like me, Dread, or Minus will be on. Council members do not have to be administrators, but are required to be if there are no administrators online. That means that we really, really need to get more admins because currently we only have Avil and Clary, and Dusty and Minus and I.
Hi.
Yeah, Dusty and Minus and I have been having to pick up admin duties, and the three, not none of the three of us actually want to do any administration. We just want to do development, and we want to work on getting these sims built and having to micromanage little scenarios that happen between people that are fighting and the neutral sims is slowing us down. So that being said, we are not officially open until July 4th. We're going to open on Independence Day, and that will be basically grand opening. There'll be fireworks going off that blow people up in the sky all day and crap like that. There is a plan for a more planned out build layout later on that might start happening after the 4th of July, but the Sims will be officially open for combat, and the objective system should be down in some sort of beta form on the 4th of July. There's no reward for taking the objectives other than being able to teleport to that location and fortify it. When you do get the objective, you are allowed to place your own personal teleporters within it too to make it harder for somebody to reclaim the objective. There's not a lot that's against our rules here. There may be some automated defenses that use that database list that allows people to teleport into the objectives in the first place to for them to hold that objective longer, which means that there might be auto turrets that people have to go in and destroy. The attacker spawn, or not spawn, but the hub, the way that we've alleviated the hub killing problem is that people will spawn underground, which means in a no res parcel, which means that they can't kill each other in the hub anyway. Damage is off in the spawn hub, but we are actually building a combat area around the hub and up into the sky, 32 floors tall, 32 or 33, I forget. It's going to look like a Judge Dredd hab block. I know I've mentioned this before. We do actually have a plan for how much space it's going to take up now vertically, but what that will also encourage people to do is prevent people's aircraft from getting stuck in sim borders by going through the corners of the sim, because it'll be so tall that it'll be better off just flying around it. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
And so that'll be the best way to alleviate that problem. We do know that the admin auto killer does hit people in the spawn right now. We haven't decided whether we're going to fix that or not. We know how to fix it, but the bumping annoys people and it gets their attention and it makes them want you to stop faster. It won't kill them in the spawn, but it'll make that annoying prim bump noise. The whole point of the admin HUD is not to Well, it's to time someone out temporarily. No more than like 15 minutes ever should ever be necessary unless somebody's being completely retarded. So just bear that in mind that you should never be punished by an admin for very long, and you should never like if you just absolutely refuse to cooperate with the admin, they might decide to, leave you on the auto killer for 24 hours, but that's your prerogative. If you feel like the admin wronged you, bring it up with another admin because they'll be able to lift the black screen on that as well. Anybody caught abusing the ability to lift the auto kills will be removed from the admin system. And anybody that is removed from their administrative task, they will not be able to abuse the HUD or the system anymore because it requires us to manually put people's avatar keys in for receiving messages to the servers that are placed at a random place in the, well, not random, but at an undisclosed place in the skybox. If you all cam flying, you'll find out where the servers are. You can try to break them if you want, because that's what we want to happen, but we'll fix them pretty quickly. So we are encouraging people to break the scripted systems here. You will not be punished for breaking the scripted systems here because there's no reward for breaking the scripted systems here except for us to fix them and make sure that you can't break them that way again. I will not ever tell you that the intersim teleports will be 100% reliable because that would be an outright fabrication. If you are trying to hold an objective, your best way to hold said objective is always going to be to go into the sim that objective is in and just use the regular region-wide teleports to get to that objective. So just bear that in mind. The intersim teleports are there, but you're far better off using the ones that are in the region that the objective is in, or your own personal teleporters. So we haven't really had to take much administrative action, maybe once a day, and it's never been for more than like an hour or so at a time, except for a case with Helbrech, which was Dusty went to bed and I didn't wake up until a lot later. And then the LAN server system broke, and I apologized to Helbrech about that. So I hope that they realized that that was a sincere apology. The auto killer was not alleviating itself in several regions because the servers had Flying forgot to include the server keys when they were deeded to, the relay keys when they were deeded to the group to be allowed to communicate with the servers, and that's what broke. So it received the auto kill message, and then it stopped functioning when we deeded them to the LAN group. So that's been fixed, and it does work. I've auto killed my alt for like 12 hours straight, and then turned it off, and it stopped auto killing him. So I know that that's fixed. A couple other things that I've tried to break are fixed as well. So if you're an admin in these trying beginning times, please try to break your admin HUD, but do it with the consent of like another admin or a council member. Just abuse the crap out of each other for a little while, see if you can get it to stop working or to do something that's not intended. Don't abuse people that are doing regular neutral combat. That's not good. We have seen quite a bit more traffic lately, which is good, and we've seen people fighting in other neutral sims besides just attacking chaos. Mostly it's been people attacking chaos, thanks for, yep, hit by administrative black screen. So, that's good. We would like to see some militaries attach by August or at the end of August. It's just a matter of, we know it's very expensive to move 2 regions to create a buffer homestead. Yeah. Cost you $400, and you also have to switch regions, rebuild your region for the continent. We understand that. So there are outposts for people that don't have that money. The outposts are 700 lindens a week. And how many prims do you get in the outposts, Dusty? You get 200?
200.
Yeah. So that's good as well.
Well, size and price is negotiable if there's room in that sim.
What's that?
The size per allowance and price is only negotiable depending on sim.
I got
How much space we have.
Yeah, exactly. There's already an outpost down in the Outlands. I'm not a fan of the way that they built their outpost because you have to plan on when you're putting an outpost in a neutral sim that people might start just coming over to your outpost and shooting you. And theirs is a crumpled aircraft just kind of laying there on the ground. So I'm going to talk to them about helping them fix that. You really want to build some sort of fortification. like Coercion had the right idea. They were going to build a big techno tower and be techno barbarians or some crazy crap like that. But it would have been cool because they knew that people were going to try to go into their outpost and kill them. People will always have damage on in their outposts, and they cannot mess with those. If they mess with those settings, you need to report it to the sim owner immediately, and they will go alleviate that problem or vacate that person if it becomes a continued problem. Um, so that basically covers most of it. Does anybody have any questions, really? Cool. Oh, the automated systems. We have discovered that agentless-based turrets can shoot across sim borders if you put them in the right location. So use that knowledge to your benefit, and we will also be probably putting some of the outposts close enough to the sim borders to where their turrets won't have or not outpost objectives. Their turrets won't have a blind spot facing an entire wall or something like that. So. We will be open sourcing some of our intersim systems soon. Not the admin system, but the intersim artillery systems, which it's pretty easy to do that. Doing an intersim missile is super easy. Doing an intersim artillery system is super easy. You just add or subtract distance based on how far away it is. The big rule that we're trying to encourage here is that all things need to have a trajectory path when they are fired at people. That means raycast goes along a trajectory. Raycast, it needs an interruptible trajectory path, which means that, if you fire raycast at a wall, the raycast shouldn't travel through the wall. If you fire a missile through a bunch of sims, it needs to actually physically travel through the sims, whether it's guided or not. It should not just warp to the position and explode. We have had some problems with this already with several of the smaller groups that are using older secondary Lionheart munitions and stuff like that warp 2. That was a reliable and still is the most reliable way to do anti-air. Don't get me wrong. And I think that everybody here agrees. I mean, 2142 doesn't even allow seekers in their sim, and I think that's actually encourages more fun air combat. But yeah, it's not fun to have something instantly warp to you and there's no way to dodge it. There's nothing cool about that. So we don't want that to be happening, especially with something like an ICBM or something like that, where it just warps to a sim and fucking detonates the whole sim. So, be sure when you are bringing things here that if you have missile launchers, uh, they are not warping to whatever they're targeting, because that's silly. They should have not even a set velocity, just a velocity and a path that they follow. I don't care if they speed themselves up to catch up to things or anything like that. That's the only rule that I want to talk about, because it seems to have been something that only really a few groups have had issues with. XAF, for one, Meridim already fixed that. If you see an XAF member using their Stinger or Javelin missile platform that is not a 4.0 or above, contact them and ask them to put on the 4.0 or above. I believe that their Stinger platform is 4.1, and I think their Javelin platform might be 4.1, or it might all be the same missile launcher, I forget. But it should be a 4.0 or above, and then they shouldn't have that munition. I want to talk about some courteous behavior real quick before we close up. For anybody that watches this later on, I think we went about 30 minutes like I suspected. So, if you're using FLAC, please use the FLAC that Dread and I open sourced. If you don't have it, I'll get it to you. I just need to wait until Dread's internet connection has stabilized, and then it'll be freely available in the HUD. Or hub, not HUD, sorry. So the FLAC that Dread and I open sourced, it works by not detonating on armored vehicles or trying to push armored vehicles through the ground. It's very nice, specifically calling out some of the groups whose FLAC is, pushing and locking up armor. Don't flak armor if you know your flak's going to push people's tanks around, because that's just kind of a dick move, and you don't want your tanks pushed around either. If your vehicles are being pushed around by the flak that Dread and I made, I will explain to you why that's happening and explain to you how to fix that. It has to do with the prim that you are sitting on. Not the armor follower, but the prim you are sitting on being physical. If it's physical, our flak assumes that you're in an unarmored aircraft and will detonate like you're an unarmored aircraft, like traditional flak. So just bear that in mind. The flak will also detonate on avatars above a certain height that are above either the ground or scripted physical objects, so that it will work on people that are above like fleet ships and stuff like that. They won't be immune to the flak. So I can grab that and re-open source it later this evening after I get back from the gym. Another thing that I want to talk about is this is not a rule, but it may become one. And I really don't want to add rules, but this is getting really silly and people are doing it intentionally because it's not a rule. So I encourage the administrative staff to call them out on violating courtesy policy. AT that pushes people's tank bases and gunship bases and fleet ship bases around. It's unacceptable. This is 2015. We know what causes that. If you're doing it, you're doing it intentionally. If you don't understand why it's happening, I will explain right now. People are making their AT emission prims non-phantom, which means that they're trying to push themselves through the armor base to get to the person's avatar. Because that's how AT delivery works right now, because we're still using prim bashing because people can't agree on a system right now, which is fine. But if you are going to be using prim bash AT, please make the AT emitter phantom. I will grief the crap out of anybody I see pushing people's tanks around intentionally. If you're told your missile launcher is pushing people's tanks around, take it off. It's not a rule, but just be courteous and take it off. If you were in a tank, a gunship, or a fleet ship, and somebody fired a missile at you and your fleet ship or tank got flipped upside down and slammed into the ground or something, you'd be a little irritated about it too. It's getting really frustrating. And like I said, the people I've seen doing it are specifically doing it on purpose to disable the vehicle. Cut it the fuck out. That's all I have to say to anybody that's doing that. Cut it out because the admins are not going to put up with your shit. Like, if you're intentionally disrupting combat because you feel like being a shithead, you're going to be treated like a shithead for it. So, with that being said, we really haven't had any other real violations of the courtesy policy other than people not quite understanding how it worked. The courtesy policy is not in place to... sorry, I almost lost my train of thought there. It's not in place to protect organized militaries. It's there to protect lone wolves from organized militaries. It doesn't say that people won't pull crap out on you if you're a lone wolf, but it says that they should at least practice some form of escalation before, pulling out a fleet ship with explosive bombardment turrets on a single lone wolf. But if you're in a military, and you're attacking another military, you should expect the full force of their armory at any point throughout the time you're attacking them. And it's not, no party that escalates first is going to be held guilty for that. It's, once you reach the limits of your armory and then, whatever happens, just don't escalate into full-on grief war, because we've had that a few times too. Things have been going really smooth with this really lax administration policy that we have in place, other than the push AT and the flak. The flak is just a matter of a lot of people are using old open source Zabimato flak, and that's fine. It's what was available to them at the time. We have something better for everyone now, and if you don't have your hands on it, like I said, once again, contact me to get it. The only other major issues that I've seen, really though, is we've actually been, Chaos is getting attacked so often that it's been preventing us from getting things done quite as fast as we'd like to. That's our own problem. That has to do with our group activity and it being the beginning of the summer now. I'm not asking anyone to cease attacks on us. Just understand that if you do come attack us and it's Mechanicus members or Outland development staff members online and they don't counterattack you, by all means, colonize our base, because it's our fault that we didn't have people online. It's not very often that we don't have people online, but, if we're not here, move into the base, set up whatever you want. We'll have to clear it out. We don't have auto return on here. Auto return is set for 4 hours in neutral sims. Neutral sims have a minimum of 4-hour auto returns if they want to have auto return at all. If they don't want to have auto return, then they don't have to have auto return, but that requires them having to manually go in and clean things up. Auto return has saved us a lot of trouble, so just bear that in mind.
You mentioned the minimum auto return, right?
Yeah, 240 minutes. Or is that 4 hours or 6? It's 4 hours, yeah.
Yes.
6 hours would be... So, 6 hours would be 360 minutes. So, anyway, that about covers it. Does anybody have anything they'd like to say? Any problems with the admin application? Oh, hang on. I did miss something about the administrative application because Evelyn and I talked about it before. Tyro started recording. So, if you are applying to represent a group, you will be pushed into a poll with the rest of your fellows from that group that have applied to represent that group as well, and only one of you will be chosen. Every single military in our community will have a single representative on our administrative board. They will be given the admin HUD and the ability to administrate. A requirement is that you speak fluent English without the assistance of a translator. That's because it's very, very hard to convey information between each other if you do not speak fluent English. Bilingual people are very, very encouraged. Bilingual people that speak Portuguese and Spanish are much more encouraged, as well as Russian, because we have the primary other languages that people speak that aren't very well English capable are Portuguese, Spanish, and Russian. I'm bilingual, Dusty's bilingual, but Dusty and I are bilingual in languages that nobody else uses because everybody in those countries are, English fluent as well. So, just if you speak Spanish or Portuguese, you're top of the line for an independent admin already. So, and independent admins will be, their applications will be assessed based on how many independent admins we deem we need at the time. Currently, we want 6 independent admins and whatever new Jesse is bringing with them, but I think that Kane needs to drop his inactive admins. He only has 2 active admins besides himself and Liana anyway, which are Felon Miles and Ares Viper. Ares Viper is a pretty good admin in New Jesse. I've butted heads with him a few times, but I'm kind of a shithead, so, I don't think there's an admin in this community that hasn't butted heads with me, which is why I feel like the people that we have selected are usually troublemakers in other sims. They're actually going to make pretty decent admins because they're going to give other people being shitheads the benefit of the doubt over, somebody that's gone through their hall monitor phase where they think that they're just there to police things. The other part of the administrative process that I didn't cover this meeting that I'm going to cover now, even though this is a little unorganized, I apologize, it slipped my mind, is people representing groups cannot take administrative actions against people that are currently engaged in combat with that group that they represent. Meaning, if Military A is attacking Military B, Military A or B's admins cannot interfere in what's going on there. They need to get the assistance of another group's admin or an independent admin if something gets out of hand. Groups themselves have been pretty well behaved here. We had a really fun fight with coercion. It was either last night or the night before. That involved a lot of intersim bombardment, and nobody was really complaining about it. The only thing that really got complained about was Italy Land 2 choking up, which was rightfully so. There was just nothing we could do about it. So we encourage people to build intersim systems, because what that encourages people to do is fight in multiple sims at once to destroy those systems. I would have never had to push into Italy Land 2 if coercion didn't have mortars out in the back of Italy Land 2, because I couldn't hit those mortars with my mortars from where I was, so I had to send people into Italy Land 2 to kill those mortars, and it created a more intense and fun combat environment. So just bear that in mind. There are now 4 other sims besides just Chaos's base, and you can fire into every single sim from the other sims now, if you have the right angle. So that being said, I think that this meeting's pretty much wrapped up. We will officially open on the 4th of July, like I said earlier. Anybody that wants to celebrate the 4th of July with us, we will be doing a scripted fireworks show. I've been working on the particles for about a month now, because that was my intention, was to officially open on the 4th of July. If you have fireworks or nukes you'd like to contribute to the fireworks show and things like that, that's totally awesome. Our Hellblades and Helltalons will be flying around with America mode enabled, which means that when they're flying around, you'll hear eagle screeches, and all their thrusters will be like stars and red, white, and blue and crap. I encourage everybody else to do that with their aircraft too. And if you're not from America, fuck you. That's about it. If you encounter any bugs, report them to us. We encourage you guys to criticize us too if we've done anything that you think is wrong. But I encourage you to criticize us, but I also encourage you not to get angry when your criticisms are countered out with, well, you don't have any evidence or anything else to back that up other than you don't like it. And there's nothing wrong with upsetting somebody, and one person's opinion isn't going to sway an entire community. So just bear that in mind. Tyro, you can stop recording now. Yeah.